if we play at our best, we will beat every team in this league playing at their best. So who's it on? Whose shoulders does it fall on? Ours. Let's go get it.
Welcome to JetsCentralRadio. Joe Caporoso.
Extra, read all about it. You can win anywhere if you can win here. And you ain't been nowhere if you ain't been here. Well, so hard, yeah, really, in the game, man. Same place, different faces on the train, man. New York.
What's up, everybody? Back with another episode of Turn on the Jets Central Radio with a new intro. Much credit to our friends at Pro Football Central with the little Rex Ryan, J. Cole, 50 Cent mashup, which I'm loving. Empire State of Mind is great. It's Empire State of Mind, but little overplayed, just a little overplayed in the New York area. So we figured we mix it up a little bit for you guys. Very, very excited for tonight's episode. We're going to be joined by former New York Jets general manager Mike Tannenbaum. He's going to join us at the back end of the show. We were able to get 15 minutes with him. He's over at Priority Sports now, working to actually represent coaches, broadcasters. Kind of an interesting career move after finishing up his tenure with the team's GM. As the Jets GM, obviously, an up and down tenure. Didn't end on the highest note, but we'll get into all that with Mike at the end of the podcast. A couple quick things. I know we've been up and down today at turnonthejets.com. It is for a good reason. We are moving from Bluehost, which has a tendency to crash every few weeks or so and then not have a helpline to help you, and we can't have that happen in season, obviously. So we are doing the migration over to Media Temple to make sure that we are running at full capacity in season, can handle all the traffic, and don't have any outages when it really matters the most. So I'm sorry we've been a bit in and out today, but we should be just about 100% within about the next hour or so, I'm hoping. So stay with us. We do have a new article tonight coming from Chris Gross about Mark Sanchez, of all people, of course. We also had a good article today from Dalvin Asario looking at some veteran running back options for the Jets. Obviously, the big news that came out today is that Mark Sanchez is going to start the preseason opener against the Detroit Lions this Friday night. Not really that big of a surprise and really not that big of news, I would say. I think coming into this competition, you would assume that leading into the third preseason game, which is when you kind of have to decide who your starter is going to be, Sanchez would get a start, Geno would get a start, and they kind of decide from there. Makes sense for Sanchez to go first. He's the veteran. Better to probably start him on the road than in front of the MetLife crowd, who will probably be more excited to see Geno start the game the following week against Jacksonville. Really to this point in camp, they've basically played to a draw, which plays to Smith's favor. Really, I think coming in, for Smith to win this job, he just needed to keep it as close as possible for as long as possible. I think people who wanted Sanchez to start or, thought Sanchez would start kind of thought he would kind of grab the position by the throat in the first week or two and not really let it go. He hasn't really done that. He was having a pretty rough green and white scrimmage, but turned it around, ended the scrimmage with a nice 60-yard touchdown out to Stephen Hill. And since then has been playing very well. He's actually strung together a couple good practices. So it will be interesting to see how he plays on the road against, solid Detroit, front seven. Obviously, it's the preseason. Chris Ivory's not going to play. Joe McKnight's not expected to play because, who the hell knows where he is. Same with Mike Goodson. I also wouldn't look for a ton of reps from Kellen Winslow Jr. or Braylon Edwards, who have been on a pitch count all summer. But Geno Smith will get his chance to work with the ones, who are actually going to be out there on Friday. So, again, with Geno, you just got to keep it close and then take your start against Jacksonville and run with it. And I think we'll see the Jets, whoever is named the starter for that third preseason game against the Giants, that's probably going to be your guy. And, right now it's still anybody's game. So, there's going to be a lot of chat, a lot of speculation about what it means that Sanchez is starting on Friday. It means he's the fifth-year veteran. He's going first. Geno will still play with the starters. Don't go too crazy over it. While we're staying on the offense, obviously one of the most frustrating aspects of camp, and we just touched on this, is the running back situation. Chris Ivory hasn't practiced yet. Hamstring issue. Not going to play Friday. However, he's anticipated to be full go for practice next week. I didn't think he was going to play a lot in the preseason anyway, but you'd like to see him get a little work. Maybe between the second and third preseason game, get 8 to 10 carries, just get him some kind of action, get him rolling a little bit. Nobody knows the story on Mike Goodson. Has not shown up to camp. There is really no word on where this guy is or when he's coming back, so hard to count on him. And, Joe McKnight has barely been practicing. He's got a head issue. He was driving around in Florham Park getting speeding tickets somehow on his day off. So I'm not really counting on him too much for the offense as well. Bilal Powell's having a good camp. I'm just a little worried about him getting overworked at this point, since he's the only, veteran running back who's out there every day. It's really going to be a big opportunity for youngsters like John Griffin and Chad Spann to make an impression on Friday night. If there's a time to grab a roster spot, it would be right now for those guys, And a guy like Griffin, I think, is actually even getting a couple shots on kick return. So if you really want to knock McKnight off the roster, make an impression there as well, because that's the only reason he hasn't been cut yet, because of his ability as a kick returner. Around the offense, hop over to receiver real quick. Clyde Gates, Stephen Hill, both continued their strong camps. It's obviously a positive, if not somewhat surprising development. So let's just hope they carry it over to the game. Pretty quiet camp for Jeremy Curley, but he's a proven veteran at this point, coming off a very strong year. So not going to worry too much about him. Confident in his ability to get the job done. Santonio Holmes isn't going to be back at the earliest till week 5. I don't anticipate him back until week 7 after being put on the PUP list. So it's going to be Curley, it's going to be Hill, it's going to be Braylon Edwards, it's going to be Gates, it's going to be Ryan Spadola, undrafted free agent from Lehigh, my proud college that I attended for my graduate degree. Not undergraduate, I went to Muhlenberg. I don't want to give the impression that I went to Lehigh 4 years, just for a 1-year master's program, but still. Great to see a Patriot League stepping it up, and Spadola is a guy we interviewed in the offseason and did a couple articles on. Talented guy, a lot of speed, runs fluid routes, was a big recruit coming out of Freehold, New Jersey, and has really made an impression in camp. We were kind of looking more towards Zach Rogers, who was kind of a big play machine at Tennessee, obviously big program SEC, and he's had a good but not as flashy camp as Spadola, who caught a 50-yard touchdown in the scrimmage and has really been making plays all over the field, and now has been getting the chance to roll through with the first team. I look for him to get out there with the ones in a couple chances Friday night. Let's see if he can take advantage of it. And right now, I'd say he has an inside track to a roster spot. Hopping over to defense, I don't think Rex Ryan's going to show that much again, this Friday and really at any point in the preseason. It'll be interesting to see, Sheldon Richardson and D. Milner, obviously. Rex went ahead and called Milner a starter today, which, it was only a matter of time. And considering the Jets' situation of free safety and Kyle Wilson's skill set, the more that Wilson's working at free safety and slot corner and nickel and not on the outside where the Jets drafted Milner with a top 10 pick to play, the better. Just get the transition over with now. Get Milner on the outside where you drafted him to play. Get Wilson moving around to more of a hybrid spot. It will be interesting to see in the secondary how the reps are divided up between Antonio Allen and Jaquan Jarrett, who are battling for the kind of de facto starter spot opposite DeJuan Landry. It's kind of interesting that, Rex Ryan looks like he's going to go with a 2-strong safety look, although I'm sure we'll see Kyle Wilson and maybe even Darren Walls rotating through in the back end over there. Richardson obviously will be fun to watch up front. I don't expect to see a lot of Wilkerson and Copels. I don't think the Jets want to risk, those guys getting banged up. Maybe Copels will play a little more so than Wilkerson, who might just go a series or two. But Richardson obviously is a guy, explosive with the pass rushing moves, who should be fun to watch. And, you hope he, progresses throughout the preseason and is really ready to become an impact player right from the get-go, because the Jets need him pushing the pocket. That's basically it. I mean, it's the first preseason game. You don't want to go crazy, overreacting to anything. We all remember the Jets last preseason. They didn't score a touchdown through their first 3 games. It was such an exhilarating summer of Jets football. Let's hope that they could punch the ball into the end zone a couple times Friday. Detroit has a good, I wouldn't say a great defense. So I'm excited to see Marty Morningway call some plays, to be honest. We were watching Tony Sperano run a fifth-grade offense last season, so it'll be nice to watch an NFL offense function again. So get excited for Friday. Our first action, first time seeing Geno Smith, first time seeing D. Milliner, Sheldon Richardson, all the new signings, Antoine Barnes, Antonio Gray. It should be fun. I mean, football is really, really here now. It's, preseason action. We have to watch the Dolphins fall behind quite to Dallas. Enjoyable again, even though it's only in the preseason. So we're excited here at Turn the Jets for Friday. We are going to finish up our migration shortly so we could make sure you get to read our new content tonight and then obviously the next couple days previewing the Lions game. So stay with us. When we get back, we're going to talk with Mike Tannenbaum, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Football fans, looking to get healthy this year? Now is the time, and I have the perfect place for you. Save 10% at onit.com/football radio. Exclusive PFC radio listeners save 10% off their order. That's onit.com, ONNIT.com/football radio.
And we are back with former New York Jets General Manager Mike Tannenbaum. Mike, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Hey, thanks for having me. How you doing, guys?
Doing good. I want to hop right into it and talk about your new position over at Priority Sports, where you're going to be working to actually represent coaches and broadcasters. It's kind of an interesting move, in your post, Jets GM life. What drew you to the position, and could you talk a little bit more about what you're going to be doing over there?
Sure. After I left the Jets, I had a number of opportunities, but the people at Priority was really what drew me to the opportunity. They've been in business for 25 plus years. They have a incredible retention rate with their clients, and we're going to start a division representing football and basketball coaches, front office executives, and broadcasters. And it's been a great start working with high character people, and I'm really glad I made the decision.
Do you anticipate any kind of, itch in the coming years about trying to get back in the front office, whether it's, as a general manager, or whether it's, somebody who's more like consulting or just working with the salary cap? Do you anticipate, that itch to come after a couple of years away from the Jets?
Right now my focus is just trying to be the, best coaching agent I can be and building a practice. And that's really where literally all of my energies are. I've been traveling around the country, just building a business, and it's going well. So that's really where my focus is. Generally speaking, I'm a guy that's never says never, but really my focus right now is just trying to build this business.
I want to talk about your most recent draft class, and three guys in particular who, the Jets and, this fan base is really counting on to be building blocks, for this year and moving forward. Quentin Copel, Stephen Hill, and Demario Davis. Could you talk a little bit about what drew you guys to Copel in the first round last year? He wasn't somebody who was really on a lot of people's radars as somebody the Jets were going to target, but what kind of drew you to him over some of the other outside linebackers like a Melvin Ingram who was still on the board? Why was Copel's, the consensus pick for you guys?
Yeah, we really liked his length, his height, his arm length, his ability to separate blocks, and playing for Rex and his defense, versatility in that front seven is really important. He's just a tremendous athlete, so the fact that he could stand up, he could put his hand in his dirt, which he'll probably do more of. We just felt like he had a little bit more versatility than Ingram when it came down to it. So that was really the tiebreaker between those two players.
Moving on to Hill, obviously there were some concerns about him being a little raw coming out of college, considering the offense he played in at Georgia Tech. What did you guys see that alleviated those concerns enough to aggressively go up and get him in the second round? What did you see from your research that gave you faith that he would in time develop into, reaching his potential, which he obviously has a very unique combination of, size and speed?
Yeah, we just felt like his floor was really good because of his size, that he'd be really good in the running game as a blocker, as a perimeter blocker, which is very important to us. And then in the size, obviously, in the red zone, and then the upside with his speed. The quarterback that he played with had a pretty low throwing percentage, and just felt that his hands were good and they could get better with his work ethic. So it was really his character and the tape that were a combination, and we felt like to move up in the second round, the price was reasonable. I believe it was a 5th round pick, so to move up to get a guy to get another young guy that could run with upside, we just felt like that was appropriate value in the second round.
With the Mario, I mean, obviously Rex Ryan is no stranger to hyperbole, and we've heard him with the early comparisons to Ray Lewis with the leadership skills and just the intensity he brings on the field. Again, he was a guy who kind of was from a smaller school. Did that help lay into the process of the decision of jumping on him in the 3rd round, not just his speed and athleticism on the field, but the way he carried himself on and off the field? And did you hear about that leadership and those leadership skills in the pre-draft process, and did that really help draw you to him?
Yeah, DeMario's tape was good coming out of Arkansas State, and his visit was really spectacular. And we had a very collaborative process when we evaluated players. And when after his visit, everybody from the scouts to the coaches, really everybody that touched DeMario, we really did feel like he had very unique, authentic leadership skills, and just felt like knowing that Bart was towards the end. It was just one of those situations where we just felt like long term, like him and David would be 2 staples at the inside linebacker, and DeMario is a guy that athletically can play all 3 downs and can cover tight ends and backs, and in the AFC East you really need to be able to do that with the athletic tight ends and the speed that some of these running backs have. So we just felt like from a physical characteristic standpoint, he had everything to be successful.
I'm sure this is a question you get all the time, and looking at Mark Sanchez and looking at the decision to roll with him and extend him and give him the contract to really be the guy for a few more years, heading into this past season. Outside of on the field, from what you saw, in 2009 and 2010 when he really picked it up down the stretch run, was it things that you saw around the building and off the field and how he handled himself in the off season that helped kind of push you towards making that kind of financial commitment to him? Obviously, there's been whispers about his dedication level and his mental makeup and his leadership, but what did you guys see from him off the field, and really with some of those more intangible things that quarterbacks need that made you comfortable with the decision to go ahead on that contract?
Sure. He was in our building every single day. He was a winning quarterback over the first 3 years of his career. When we made the decision, and again when we had made the decision before the 2012 season, he just came off a year where, although we finished 8-8, we had 32 touchdowns, 26 throwing and 6 rushing. We felt like his one flaw was, too many turnovers, and thought, we had a plan in place to correct that. Obviously, that didn't work out as well as we had thought, in the 2012 season. But in terms of his intangibles, Mark was there when we wanted him to be, always did well on his tests, knew the offense, and worked at his craft, and it was important to him. He was also durable, and he's a guy that was a winning quarterback in the NFL. So knowing that he was homegrown talent and had the appropriate work ethic and won a lot of games with him, that's why we made the decision. And, obviously based on how we played last year, it's a decision obviously that hasn't worked out so far, but, I think Mark's career is far from over, and, there's, I think, a lot of good there. Obviously, the turnovers are going to be something that he has to work on, and I'm sure Park knows that, and I'm sure Coach Morningwig's working on that with him every day.
Moving over to, probably the best draft pick or the best draft decision you've ever made. I don't think anyone would debate, trading up for Darrelle Revis and getting him where you got him and watching him develop into arguably the best defensive player in the NFL. What do you feel about the value the Jets got back in the trade for him, considering the injury he was coming off of? I mean, obviously it's hard to put a price on a player like that, particularly with an unknown like an ACL injury. What was your outsider perspective of the trade, somebody who wasn't really involved with it?
So I can understand why it was made, and, you could really make an argument that it was a win-win. I'll go back to 2006, my first year as general manager. One of the first things I did was trade John Abraham for a first-round pick, and that turned into Nick Mangold, and I'm sure, Dean Milner could very well be a guy that, could play a long time for the Jets and have a good career. And I can certainly see why John Idzik, as a first-year GM, would want to make that trade. Tampa Bay is obviously in a situation in the NFC South where defending the past is at a premium with the people they face, between Atlanta, obviously, and New Orleans. And, drafting Mark Barron a year ago, signing Deshaun Golston, and then trading for Darrelle Revis, obviously, they're attacking their needs as well. So, I think it's one of those trades that really makes sense from both sides.
Obviously it's easy to hang your hat on, the Revis pick and, trading up even for David Harris and, getting Mangold and Ferguson in the first round. But what are some of your, lower profile, or out of all your kind of lower profile or later round picks, which one kind of stands out to you between the 2006 and 2011 draft that, you're particularly proud of, that you found a guy, in the fourth round or later, and he, really made an impact? Which one kind of jumps off the page for you?
I would say probably Drew Coleman, because I think that was, representative of a total organizational success story. In fact, ironically, he was drafted by Coach Mangini, and obviously he probably had his more success with Rex. But, he was a guy that, I think he's the epitome of, tape sets the floor and character sets the ceiling. And Drew Coleman worked his tail off, and he was coached well, and he did great in the off-season program. He had some knee issues, and John Melody, the trainer, worked closely with him. So I think when you see a guy like Drew Coleman do well, I think that speaks so well of an entire organization's effort. So that's probably one that sticks out to me.
Okay, and one final question before we let you go here. You are obviously in the war room when the Jets took Muhammad Wilkerson. He really seems to be starting to get some of the recognition that I think anybody who watched every snap the Jets play last year really feel he deserves. Do you think people are justified and correct in, talking about him as really one of the 3 or 4 best 3-4 defensive linemen in the league, and, how good could he really be? I think we're just starting to see him scratch the surface.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And the thing about Muhammad is, as good of a player as he may be, he's a better person. And I knew his college coach very well, Coach Golden, who's now at the University of Miami. I'm like, tell me about this guy. And everything, Al said about him was, bore out in spades. He's a wonderful, wonderful guy. He's a local homegrown talent. And, that's always nice, too, like when you draft guys like Kyle Wilson and Mo, who are local New Jersey guys. And, Mo is just built, prototypical size for the position. He's built to last. He should have a great career. Football is really important. He comes from a wonderful family. His mother's incredible. Really proud to be part of that selection. And I think Mo represents what's so good in the NFL on a lot of levels.
All right. Well, thank you again for taking the time. Is there anything you want to, shout out or call attention to? I believe you have a foundation event coming up in the coming days.
I don't have anything in the coming days, but I appreciate that. I do have a couple of foundations where we try to give back to people who are trying to break into sports through the University of Massachusetts in particular. So appreciate you asking. All right.
Well, thanks again, and everybody make sure to follow Mike over on Twitter now at Mike P. Tweet. Thanks again, Mike, and good luck with everything this season.
Okay, great. Thanks for having me.
This has been a presentation of the Pro Football Central Network. For news, blogs, highlights, and more, log on to ProFootballCentral.com.